Last week, the U.S. House of Representatives passed H.R. 1, the For the People Act. H.R. 1 supports every eligible voter's chance to participate in civil life and brings integrity, fairness, and transparency for our nation's elections. Despite the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which was readopted and strengthened in 1970, 1975, and 1982, voter suppression has been a shameful reality in our country. The ability to have meaningful participation in our democracy is crucial to the vibrancy of our nation. H.R. 1 is an opportunity for voting reform that includes everyone, including the U.S. territories. H.R. 1 incorporates key provisions of Representative John Lewis's Voting Empowerment Act and ends systemic, discriminatory barriers to voting by ending the indiscriminate purging of voters from the rolls, restores voting rights to individuals with felony convictions after they've completed their prison sentences, establishes automatic voter registration, and expands absentee and early voting. The bill also makes important revisions to government ethics laws. I'm pleased to announce that an amendment to create a Congressional Task Force on Territorial Voting Rights has been incorporated into H.R. 1. Americans have seen, and Virgin Islanders and others living in the territories feel, the impact of limited electoral participation. For example, federal legislation often has unintended consequences to the territories or are passed with deficiencies in treatment to the territories. Residents of the territories serve in the armed forces in disproportional numbers but cannot vote for their commander-in-chief. Citizens in the Pacific live under constant nuclear threat from North Korea, but have no voting representation in Congress to influence American foreign policy. The inclusion of my amendment to create a task force on voting rights in the territories is a crucial step in voting rights in the territories, and I'm grateful that it passed the House floor. My amendment calls for the creation of the Congressional Task Force to look into A. Impediments to full and equal voting rights for the United States citizens who are residents of the territories of the United States in federal elections, including presidential. B. Impediments to full and equal voting representation in the House of Representatives for United States citizens who are residents of the territories. C. Recommend changes that would allow full and equal voting right in federal elections, including presidential. And D. Recommend changes that would allow for full and equal voting representation in the U.S. House of Representatives. Until the United States began ownership of offshore territories, which have majority-minority people, disenfranchisement in territories was viewed as a temporary condition. From the 1787 Northwest Ordinance until the acquisition of Puerto Rico lands were deemed territories with the expectation that they would eventually become fully part of the Union as states. Under the Constitution, Congress has the responsibility for the territories, and inclusion of my amendment in this bill forces Congress to begin finding equity for citizens of the territory in voting rights. Congress has the constitutional responsibility for the territories and must create a plan to end the untenable positions under which the American citizens living in the territories reside. This bill passed in the U.S. House and now moves to the Senate. It is the first major legislative step in curing this ill, this stain on our country, and blight over the people of the territories. We are now urging the Senate and Senator Mitch McConnell to take up the measure.